First sack of his CFL career registered against Todd Dillon by Bernie Jones. Well, let's make it Benny.
I think he'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Benny Jones, I thought we'd see him a little more in the first half, but really tonight what they planned to do was to go with 5 defensive linemen. You know, they've come east. It's a little muggier here than it probably is in Vancouver. They got the 3-hour time difference. So in order to keep everybody fresh, Don Matthews told us that Benny Jones would be inserted in there for that pass rush.
Not to knock other CFL coaches, but it seems to me that Matthews is prepared in everything he does. He knows he always prepares for the uncertain things that can happen. He's a great football coach. And this is a good kick by Kenny Clark. He's forced Darnell Clash right to the sideline. Darnell picks it up at the 19 and then is forced out.
Well, that's a great job by the 14-year veteran Kenny Clark. Outstanding punt with no return.
Well, there are a lot of junior football games going on across Canada. There's a look at some of them. If they're in your area, why don't you make sure to take it in? So the BC Lions will start from their 21-yard line with 1:26 left. That was a good defensive stand for them because the Rough Riders could kind of sense that they were getting back in this game. They failed by 8, but BC just stuffed them. Tim Cowan in relief of Roy DeWalt, who was banged up the last series of plays. The inside handoff is to Keevan Jenkins, but he's tripped up, and Ottawa really seems to be coming on. Greg Marshall with the play. The loss will be about 3.
Tim Cowan, not overly impressive so far in 1986 in limited playing ability. Really only thrown 43 passes, completed 19 for a 44% completion rate. 3 interceptions and still looking for his first touchdown pass.
And backed up now to his 18-yard line where he has 2nd and 13. Well, he threw that one looking for Sandusky, but you know what, Leaf? He had to readjust the way he was going to throw the football. He had to deliver it more sidearm than over the top because of the rush.
Yeah, that's a good point. You really picked it out well. So once again, a good defensive stand by the Ottawa Rough Riders, and as they did the last time they had the football on offense, they should start around midfield.
And Leaf, the Lions will go the rest of the game without slot back Jan Karinci. He has pulled quadriceps. He did it on a kickoff.
Oh, they are sore too. You get those, and that's a very tender area.
But, I mean, you have to be very concerned if you're both these coaches. These guys are dropping like flies.
Well, about the only thing you hope for is it's import, so they're easier to get in.
Butts takes it at the 54-yard line and then backs up to his own 54. So he'll actually lose a yard or 2, depending upon where they spot it. Paul Nastasiuk, number 36, was down as you take a look at Jan Karinci. A Toronto boy who went to Maryland and ended up having a fine career there. I saw him play in a postseason bowl game where he was really outstanding.
Territorial pick by the Argonauts in 1981, and I'm sure, as everybody knows across Canada, part of the big trade this year that took him to the BC Lions.
Todd Dillon fires it out to Lester Brown, and there's a play that Ottawa hasn't used, I don't believe, tonight, but we saw them previously this year where they just chewed up the defense doing so. But there's the gun to signify the end of the 3rd quarter of play. It's the BC Lions 21, the Ottawa Rough Riders 13. We'll return with the 4th quarter in a moment. This is back into quarterback the Rough Riders. But if he gets hit many more times like that, we're going to see Todd Dillon again, because Larry Crawford was one of many who was there.
Well, anytime you get something generated on offense, you can count on the BC Lion defense coming after you. That time, Larry Crawford on a safety blitz picked up his 2nd sack of the year.
Look how close the Rough Riders are in net yardage to the Lions. But they've turned the ball over 4 times, and that really is the difference in the ball game.
Yeah, it has. You know, 2 of those turnovers were directly responsible for 10 points from the BC Lions. And, of course, with BC ahead 21-13, that really is the difference.
They didn't have a first down in that quarter. Nobody over on the coverage. And look at this. Reggie Butts is inside the 10-yard line. He was out there like it was a sleeper play. There was absolutely no one on the coverage. It was 3rd down and 6 yards to go. And Ottawa comes up with a big play.
Well, they left Tom Burgess in the game as an up back, and BC didn't realize that. Ken Clark was standing back there, but Burgess in quickly, took the snap from center, and hit a wide-open Reggie Butts down the sidelines. 41 yards later. Now, you talk about trick plays at work. That's one of the best I've ever seen.
To be honest with you, I wasn't even aware of what was going on.
Well, I'll tell you who else wasn't, too, was BC Lions defense.
Ottawa has the ball just inside the Lions' 10-yard line.
Well, that's the kind of play that the fans at Lansdowne Park, I'm sure, wish they had a scoreboard that showed replays, because I'm sure they still don't know what happened.
Well, Ty Cruz was talking to referee Ross Carrier. Now Larry Crawford is over there talking to 2 other officials. They still haven't figured out what's happened, and I'll be honest, neither have I. Tell me again how it developed.
Well, Ken Clark was back to kick, and Tom Burgess stayed in as an up back, and they just didn't realize he took the snap from center and threw it out to Reggie Butts.
I mean, we replay everything, but we don't replay that one.
Well,
Burgess, under a tremendous amount of pressure, just actually threw the ball away.
it's big number 78, Walter Ballard, the right defensive end for the BC Lions, who Don Matthews said yesterday was probably the unsung hero of that team so far this year. The big statistics are not there, only 3 sacks, but he has really been making plays like this all year long, and this will not go up in the defensive statistics really, other than a knockdown pass, but he does his job.
I think I mentioned it. If I did not, the Lions did not have a first down in the 3rd quarter. And now back in is Todd Dillon. Dillon throws. And the Riders are down to about the 2-yard line because Clorindo Grilly made the catch and made a good run to get down that close. Now it's 3rd down again.
Well, he had to dump it off. He had no one downfield. Clorindo Grilly does the best he can, but he just can't get into the end zone with that swarming defense. Well, what do you do?
Well, you see, in this instance, I would go for the field goal, but they're going to go for the touchdown. That's why I guess when I keep applying for head coaching jobs, I never get them.
They don't return the phone calls.
No.
Well, it's got the crowd buzzing, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah. 3rd and goal from the 2. Burgess in at quarterback. Looks, throws, no good.
Mike Hudson couldn't hang on to it in the end zone. Look at Keith Gooch. He's happy. He covered him like a blanket.
Well, we'll come back and talk about that play with the BC Lions leading at 21-13. We're going to break away for a moment.
Well, here's the 3rd down gamble. Tom Burgess looking for Mike Hudson deep in the end zone. He makes a great effort to come up with it, but, well, that would have been an unbelievable catch. Kind of interesting, though, Pat. You and I were talking at the commercial break why early in the game you don't go for it. Now, when you got a sure 3 points, you decide to go for it. I don't know.
Roy DeWalt is back in at quarterback. The handoff goes to Keevan Jenkins. And, boy, Keevan did a nice job running that football. If he doesn't have the first down, he's very close to it.
Well, he just keeps bouncing off tackles. Initially designed to go off right tackle behind big Brian Illebrun, but it's all stacked up. There's Rick Sovieta, 75, blocking it up, but Keevan bounces it to the outside, and that's really a big play when you're backed up. You know, he's so close to a first down, they need a measurement, but when you're backed up like that, you sure as heck want to be able to run the football. Well,
for all the fans BC who, you know, didn't have an opportunity of joining us at the start of the ball game, it was 4-0 Lions after the first quarter, 18-10 BC at the half. It's 21-13 right now with 12 minutes and 47 seconds left to play in the 4th quarter, and that probably is the most important statistic next to the score. 5 turnovers by Ottawa, none by the Lions. It is a first down, BC. The ball is outside their 12. DeWalt took his time, but then fired over the head of John Pankratz.
Smart throw, too. Nobody open, put it up in the first row.
Lions have, prior to that first down, had gone the entire third quarter and then a couple of minutes here in the fourth without a first down. They need another one right now because Ottawa's really coming on defensively. DeWalt read it quickly, fired, and completes it to Pankratz. Excuse me. That is number 34, Scott Leckie, and Leckie makes a big catch for the Lions and gives them a first down out to the 24-yard line.
Darrell Hall read that play initially, but he just didn't have the quickness to get up there and stop it short of that first down marker.
Catch again by Scott Leckie, and the Guelph University graduate is over the 35 to the 38-yard line. It'll be another first down. Treg Songi made the tackle for the Rough Riders.
Scott Leckie, the fourth pick in the 1986 draft for the BC Lions. And, you know, in the Canadian Football League draft, when you get somebody as good as Scott Leckie in the fourth round, you've done a good job scouting.
Well, Leaf and I were talking to Scott before the ball game, and he said that, first of all, it was a thrill being drafted by the Lions, but he tried as hard as he could, but he didn't think he'd make the club. Now he's made it, and he really is in seventh heaven living in Vancouver. The third straight pass intended for Scott Leckie. He made a valiant try for that one, but it just bounced off his hands. Born in New York City, but grew up in Collingwood and is a graduate of Guelph University.
Just could not hang on, gave it a great try. Of course, he's in the game because Jan Carinci injured, pulled quadricep muscles. Jan had a couple of touchdowns before he had to leave the game, but a great opportunity for young Scott Leckie to get some playing time and some experience.
Lions have done a great job moving this ball out from the shadow of their goalposts. They have a second down again, however. DeWalt throws. Look at this. Wide open is Keevan Jenkins. And Keevan is finally forced out. But a big play as Mike McIntyre, who had to come from the safety spot, gets over there to force him out of bounds, but he picks up 42 yards.
Well, how about the block by number 21, John Pankratz, to really turn him loose? He gets the block on number 36, Treg Songi, right there, and boy, it's clear sailing for Keevan Jenkins. Boy, that's such a plus if you get the rest of the receiving corps trying their hardest to make an extra block to spring somebody loose.
10:40 left to play in the fourth quarter. 8-point lead for the Lions on the move at the Ottawa 32. DeWalt throws. Oh, good catch at about the 10 or 11-yard line. The reception made by Jim Sandusky.
Sandusky's one of those Brian Kelly type receivers, and very meticulous, excellent moves, good footwork on his patterns. That time against the newcomer Treg Songi, number 36, the cornerback. He ran a post corner, took him 3 steps into the middle and broke back to the corner, completely turned him around, and Roy DeWalt threw a strike.
Well, the Lions continue to lead it 21-13, but they're banging on the door for more. We'll find out how they make out when we come back in a moment. The Tom Burgess is the man who was in the last series. But right now, let's concentrate on that BC Lions offense. They have possession of the football at the Ottawa 11-yard line with a first down.
Well, I know you're excited.
Well, it's been a really good football game. And 23,000 are enjoying it here. And the Ottawa fans will enjoy that one because they were able to contain Keevan Jenkins after a pickup of only a yard or 2.
Not a bad call down there to go to the draw play. Of course, Ottawa defense probably expecting pass on that situation.
So with the ball at the 9-yard line, Roy DeWalt needs a big play here if he wants to increase that 8-point margin. He's not going to do it. Lloyd Lewis, number 76, is there to record the sack for the Ottawa Rough Riders, and James Curry was there too. But the Rough Riders dodge yet another bullet. But it'll bring Louis Pasaglia back out onto the field. Louis had a couple of short field goals tonight, and this one will just be a chip shot for him as well from 27 yards out.
And what an opportune time for their fourth sack.
It is good. The BC Lions lead it by 11 once again with 9 minutes and 23 seconds left to play in this fourth quarter.
Pat, the question I was asking myself down here was, why musical quarterbacks?
Yeah,
so
and
I put it to the Ottawa coaching staff. They won't tell us. So I asked several members of the defensive troops for the BC Lions, and they don't know either. They say both throw pretty much the same, and they're running the same plays.
And I see that Todd Dillon has come out for this series. Well, mind you, Leo did it with Joe Theismann and Greg Barton for a couple of games.
Next Friday night, the Ottawa Rough Riders, doesn't get any easier for them. They have to travel to Winnipeg to play the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Dale Isaac, Frank Rigney, Al McCann, they'll be along to bring you all the action from that game. Friday Night Football on CTV.
Dillon's pass, Grilly's got it. Florindo Grilly is inside the BC 45-yard line to about the 43. Well, this is a youngster who's starting his first game for the Rough Riders, and you had to know he'd be nervous. The first two plays he completely botched up, but watch this one.
Well, excellent concentration. That's the matchup they want. A middle linebacker covering a 4'6", 40 inside receiver, Florindo Grilly, and he makes a nice catch. And Todd Dillon, doesn't really matter who's in a quarterback for the Rough Riders tonight. They're getting a pretty good job.
Well, that one was really misread by the quarterback receiver combination because Reggie Butts made his cut, and
yeah, I somehow suspect that Reggie Butts went the right way and Todd Dillon just threw the ball to the wrong spot because they had Lester Brown streaking downfield along the sidelines, and that would open it up for Reggie Butts to come back into the middle. Well, that's what happens. You got a new quarterback. He's only been in about 3-4 days, and
yeah,
I think he's performing pretty well for that amount of time.
He has a 2nd and 10 at the moment from the 43-yard line of the Lions. The escape valve was Lester Brown on that play, but unfortunately for Todd Dillon, he threw the ball too high for him to get it.
Yeah, that's the tough part of the run and shoot offense to the short side of the field rather. They only have 2 receivers, so if the guy going deep's covered, you've got to dump it off to the short guy, and that's, of course, what the BC Lions wanted him to do. You know, I've never been nuts about this offense and a come from behind kind of offense. I don't know. It's great to establish something early in the game, but I like the more conventional drop back where you get to use more of the field.
We've got Tom Burgess back again as, well, I don't know, what do you call, what is he? He's the quarterback, I know, but behind him, we've got Kenny Clark.
Well, the BC Lions defense is not going to be fooled this time. They've covered.
Glenn Jackson is coming limping off the field.
So now you know what Don Matthews has done. He's put his entire defense back on the field instead of the punt return team, and they're just going to have to try and pick out a guy. And well, I don't know what they're going to do. So you try and be the color commentator on this play.
Well, Ken Clark is going to punt the football.
Maybe.
No, he's not. Oh, Lewis had the ball in his hands at the 25, and he dropped it. I mean, that was well executed, and Mark Lewis has made 7 catches tonight for 148 yards, but he couldn't come up with this one.
You know, the beauty of this is if there's real pressure, he can still flip it back to Ken Clark, and he can punt it on the run if he has to. He chose to throw, of course, to Mark Lewis, and he should have had it. Simple as that.
7:43 left in the ball game. BC 24, Ottawa 13.
They're sure putting a new dimension in the kicking game tonight.
Well, of course, they're terrified to kick it to Darnell Clash.
Maybe that's it.
Cowan is back in the ball game for the Lions at quarterback. He hands the ball off to Kevan Jenkins. And there was a late hit there by Mike McIntyre.
Yeah, I was sure a flag was going to fly there, but they chose to let it pass by.
Kevan picked up about 4 yards. It's 2nd and 6. Well, we've had, 4 quarterbacks play in the game. We've had all kinds of injuries. We've had some really exciting plays. And right now we've got John Pankratz picking up a first down for the Lions into Ottawa territory at about the 51-yard line.
Darrell Hall and Ricky Barton are just having a little conversation on their coverage there because they both got fooled with Jim Sandusky breaking to the inside, and then they just dump with the Pankratz. There you see the defensive signals going in. Joe Moss, Bob Swift behind him, the offensive line coach.
Ted Heath, the defensive line coach. Well, these Lions are really fighting now, though. They can smell their 7th victory of the year. A guy like John Henry White, really tough in the old crunch. He comes through every time.
Well, this is the nice thing about a veteran club. They've won a Grey Cup. They've played well for many, many years now. And when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, these guys can come through for you.
Lions have the ball at the Ottawa 40-yard line. The handoff is to John Henry. And White is inside the 30 to about the 28-yard line, and he should have another BC first down, and does.
Well, he broke the tackle of number 34, Steve Harrison. Picked up a first down. John Henry, we told you earlier, last week, his first 100-yard rushing game of his career.
Let's go to Dan.
Pat, Roy DeWall is sitting on the bench, and they were looking at his back earlier when he got sandwiched, but right now he has a sprained thumb in his throwing hand.
Boy, it really has been a very, very injury-riddled game. Cowan's pass over the head of the intended receiver, Scott Leckie.
Well, these guys, the big horses out there, are really slow to get up now after every play. They've been really doing some head banging on those offensive and defensive lines. Brian Hillebrand, 61, he's limping back to the huddle. Boy, Illy's been around a long time. Let me just double check him.
Well, you must have played.
9 years. Oh, yeah, I played with him in Saskatchewan. He was a product of the Regina Junior Rams. Came up with Bob Poley. Bob now the center with Calgary Stampeders.
It's 2nd down and 10 yards to go from the 28-yard line. John Henry White. He was grabbed from behind by James Curry as he got to about the 25-yard line. And what he's done, he's moved the ball right in the middle of the field, and we will see Louis Passaglia to see if he can make it a 14-point game.
Somewhat unusual call maybe on 2nd down, but I guess they wanted to make sure they didn't commit a turnover, give Louis a chance to add to their lead.
Well, he's tried 3 field goals tonight from 11 yards, from 13, and from 27. He's been good on all of them. This one will come from about 33 yards.
Brian Hillebrand, we told you he was limping on the last play. I guess it took its toll now because he's down and doesn't look too happy. Regina Rams, boy, they had a lot of guys come into the CFL. Steve Mazurek, who was a fine receiver, now the executive director of the Canadian Football League Players Association, came up from the Rams. Roger Aldag, Regina Rams.
Well, Brian is a healthy-looking specimen at 6'4" and 280 pounds.
Yeah.
Just as soon not have him fall on you.
No, he hasn't missed any meals.
A lot of us could say the same thing. Passaglia's field goal will come from the 33-yard line. And it hits the upright. The Ottawa fans are excited about it. The Lions obviously aren't, because the score holds at 24-13 in favor of BC, and we'll be back in just a moment. Rough Riders get the football back with 4 minutes and 45 seconds left to play in the 4th quarter. Tomorrow and Sunday here on CTV, the best men's tennis players in the world competing the Players International Men's Tennis. You'll see the action live on CTV starting at 1 o'clock tomorrow and Sunday. Ottawa first down from the 25-yard line. Flag is down. Dillon delivers to Lester Brown. Lester gets out to the 34.
Holding Ottawa number 68.
But as you heard, Nick Benjamin was called for holding, so it'll come back.
Well, this is the stage where you just cannot have any kind of penalty to retard your progress down the field. 4 minutes, 25 seconds remaining. They've got to have good things happen to them, not penalties.
So they're backed up now to their 15-yard line.
Robert Reed, number 19, a reserve slot back, checks into the game with, I'm sure, a play for new quarterback Todd Dillon, rather. Marshall Dillon. Maybe that's what I'm going to call him now. Marshall Dillon.
Darnell Clash was just waiting for that one. That's an easy interception for Darnell because Dillon simply didn't get the ball to a breaking Mark Lewis. Darnell Clash just moved in underneath it, made the interception, and you can turn out the lights.
Yeah, you know, if you're going to throw that kind of a pass, you really have to put some steam on it or lead him downfield. He just kind of threw up a floater, and that was Darnell Clash's 4th interception of 1986, and quite an easy one for him.
It's funny, Ottawa has been able to contain Clash tonight on the punt return simply because they won't kick the football to him.
How about this guy, though? In 3 years from Wyoming, he's the all-time leading punt returner in BC Lion history. He was all-Western, all-Canadian in 1985. Has 4 interceptions so far this year. You know what I always found interesting is when he became the all-time leading punt returner, he surpassed Larry Crawford's record, and Larry Crawford was a fabulous punt returner in his own right when he was doing it.
Darnell was looking for his 5th straight 100-yard punt return night. Of course, he's not going to get it. Let's keep our fingers crossed right now that he is not seriously injured. This is the 2nd time now that he's left the ball game with what obviously is an injured knee.
I can assure you he will not be back tonight.
Tim Cowan in relief of Roy DeWalt, who was injured in the 3rd quarter, came back for moments here in the 4th, but he's back out of the game again. This one is picked off by Ricky Barden. Barden is inside the 40 to the 38-yard line. 62 yards, the interception returned by Ricky Barden. And look out, they're back in the game. Well, I think a touchdown.
Tim Cowan might have wished he hadn't checked off an audible to a different